I do want to point out that 60% of software sold was digital, and that doesn't even include the Mario Kart World bundles, of which we know roughly 80% of Switch 2 units sold were that bundle with a digital code.
Ooh.
So overwhelmingly so far, Switch 2 games are being bought digitally, and I think that goes to what we talked about with game keycards.
Yeah.
People don't like them.
No.
People do not like game keycards. And
They suck.
Yeah, there's a survey Nintendo put out that they swiftly took down, I think probably because they overwhelmingly got the message pretty quick. But it was a survey that asked your openness to digital games and offers a chance to give feedback on Switch 2 game keycards. And yeah, the takeaway basically on social media was go talk about how much you hate keycards. And yeah, we hate keycards too. They serve very little purpose.
Well, the purpose is to drive people towards digital game purchases because Nintendo doesn't want to keep spending money to make physical games. So in that regard, they were quite successful.
Yeah. As a game developer, you have an incredible chance to sell your game by just putting it on an actual like cart, because physical collectors just love it so much. I love my physical games, and they're increasingly rare. I kind of see where they're coming from with the key cards, like, because it might be confusing to, I guess it's not confusing to people to buy digital, but you can already just loan people your digital games anyway. Like, why do you need, it sucks. Everyone hates them.
Get stuff on store shelf space, just for those people that are still in a store. I can still buy this. I have space in Walmart, keeps the retailers happy, but it's just not keeping consumers happy, which we foresaw when they announced this plan, and it's playing out just that way.
I reluctantly admit they have a point, right? It is expensive to manufacture physical games, and while Nintendo can do it, like they said, this is better for third parties because third parties can then still have a box on the shelves, but they don't have to go through all the trouble of putting a whole game on a little cartridge, which I believe are more expensive to produce than discs. And so,
they are.
They kind of have a point there. Like, this means that more third parties, especially smaller developers who don't have as much budget, can potentially have a box on store shelves, and that's really appealing.
What about this?
It sucks. It still sucks.
I think.
What about little cards hanging there that have the game on it, and then a code just go, oh, wait a minute, they already have that and have had that for friggin' years.
Yeah, and they have codes in a box too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
We could just do that,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, from just like an environmental standpoint, like, it's so pointless. It's such a waste. You're just like, making plastic that has no function whatsoever. At least with the cart, it's going to take a little bit more. It's going to take more energy to assemble and make all the parts. But like, at the end of the day, you have a useful thing that can be used over and over and over again, and like, it's useful instead of like a completely pointless, empty piece of plastic garbage that tastes terrible.
Yeah. Can't even eat them.
That's it. Make the key cards taste good. There it is. Problems.
No, do not do that.
Yeah, it's a digital game that you can lose between the couch cushions. Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome sales pitch, game key cards. Yeah, and lending them I'm sure is nice, but I don't see any defenders of this. I saw defenders of this before they came out, but since they came out, none. I've seen nobody talk about liking this.
Yeah.
I think we were led to believe that it was going to be not as common as it is. It feels like every third-party game is a game key card. And I remember seeing a lot of people post.
Octopath Zero was getting roasted for that last week or whatever.
And to Reb, to your point, like, for those smaller indie developers of wanting to have that cartridge and stuff or whatever, even if it is a game key card, I can understand it every so slightly, this much, for those types of developers. But when you see like an EA, a Capcom, an Ubisoft, a Square Enix, guys, no, you've been manufacturing cartridges, and you have this like setup in place. You've already been doing this. Like, you have already programmed this into your budget, like, in the past.
And Square Enix specifically was so good at putting out everything physically on Switch. They published so many games physically on Switch, and now we're running into this situation where something like Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake, which comes out on October 30th, I'm very excited. It's coming out on Switch 1 and Switch 2. It's a physical on Switch 1, normal as can be. It's a key card on Switch 2. There's no upgrade path for Switch 1 and Switch 2, so it's like,
I didn't know that.
Octopath Zero is in the exact same boat, and Octopath Zero, I don't know what Dragon Quest situation is, but Octopath Zero is really egregious because they have a collector's edition that's like super expensive and has, like fancy crap in it, I don't know, whatever they put.
Art cards,
whatever the heck it is they put in the collector's editions these days. But And they have that collector's edition for multiple platforms, and on every other platform, it is, a disc, a whatever. But on Switch, you're getting a game key card, and there's no upgrade path if you buy the Switch 1 edition, which is just a regular physical game. It feels very silly.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder if on the other consoles that still use discs, if they're just like there's just a code, like there's like 5 lines of code that just tell it to go to the server and download it. And we've been bamboozled this whole time. But like that's the thing that I like about collecting Switch versus like I don't collect PlayStation, I don't collect Xbox games. I don't care if I buy those digital, but I love to have that tiny little cartridge, the little case. I don't know what it is about it. I just love physical.
Yeah.
And the key cards just suck so bad, especially because I love to go to, like, I'm going to go to PAX and I'm probably going to pick up a couple like NES games and some N64 games. And I love taking a game that's like 20, 30, 40 years old, plugging it into my console and just playing it.
Yeah.
And the key cards that, you could play sort of maybe a PlayStation 3 game without the updates. It'll be buggy. It won't have that. But you can't play the key card in 20, 30, 40 years. It's useless.
Yeah.
It's garbage. It's landfill.
Yeah. It's a shame, and the current understanding is that Nintendo is only offering its third-party publishing partners 2 choices, a 64-gigabyte card, which is very expensive, and it's what Cyberpunk is on. Another correlation, the best-selling third-party game on Switch 2 so far, a real physical release. And also the key card. Those are the 2 options. I saw some headline, I don't think it's real yet, that they are considering offering some smaller cartridge size, but I don't know if that's a real thing yet. We'll see if they do that, and we could start seeing some more physical games on shelves, because we know people like that. But right now, Switch 2 is mostly digital, which is different. It was 50-50 for a very long time on Switch 1, and immediately, with this keycard thing, it's starting to swing the other way. Last 2 things to talk about these financials here. This is just kind of an interesting thing to make note of, not a ton to talk about, but Nintendo's net sales increased by over 130% this year versus the same time last year. Over 570 billion yen. Yeah, maybe because they released
What's the difference between this year and last year?
Yeah, last year was like Nintendo World Championships NES Edition was their big Q1 release, and Endless Ocean. This is the biggest quarter from a net sales perspective in company history. $3.8 billion US dollars. Why is that, though? It's because they released a very expensive piece of hardware. Yep. And you have to throw in the other side of that conversation, which is that their profit only rose 21%. Their sales increased 130%, their profit 21%.
A 21% profit increase year over year is pretty great.
It is.
Yes, I understand. The difference between revenue and income. Revenue is money in, income is money after bills are paid.
Yeah.
It's just like your paycheck, but infinitely larger.
It's much larger. I just threw this in there to share. Like, this is the proof in the numbers now that Nintendo is operating at much higher costs now because of this very high-tech piece of hardware they put out this quarter. Like, this is an expensive thing to make. It cost $150 more than the Switch 1 did at launch, and it's a significantly lower profit margin than Switch 1 was. We don't know those exact numbers, but they're selling the Switch. They're making less off of each Switch 2 they sell than they did off of each Switch 1 they sold. So it's a change.
I'm guessing they make about $350.
That is true.
Really? I think they make that much. The Switch costs $100 to make.
No, I'm saying $350, like $3.50.
Someone
$3.50.
$350. About $350.
That must about $350. Someone do the math, and we can figure out what their profit margin is right now.
We just have to build one ourselves. Yeah, I thought that was interesting to point out because it's a change for Nintendo. It's very different that they're operating this way now. Like, usually they're very frugal with their hardware, so they make a lot of money. Not the case as much anymore. But with all that, very successful. No changes to the forecast. They're projecting 15 million Switch 2 units sold and 4.5 million Switch 1 units by the end of this fiscal year, which runs till March 31st, 2026. And Nintendo said, while there have been changes in the market environment since we announced our initial forecast for the fiscal year, such as the U.S. tariff measures, at this time, there is no significant impact on our earnings forecast for this fiscal year. However, in the last generation side of things, The Switch 1 saw a major price hike in the United States a few weeks after we saw a price hike in Canada. Switch 1 sold less than 1 million units in this quarter, about 980,000. They're now at 153.1 million. DS is less than 1 million away. They're about 7 million away from that all-time record for the PS2. But the price is going up based on market conditions, Nintendo says. Nintendo Switch now costs $340. Switch OLED, $400, up from $349. Switch Lite, $229. The Alarmo, Amiibo, the charging stand, all the accessories, the Switch 2 controllers and accessories, the dock set, the NSO controllers, the Joy-Con 2 straps, everything has gone up a little bit except the Switch 2 itself, physical and digital Nintendo Switch games, and Switch Online membership. So the big core important stuff has stayed the same, but Reb, everything else has gone up a little bit. What's your take?
My take is I bought a Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller before the price went up by $5. So now I have one and I don't have to stand up every time I want to turn my Switch 2 on. No, I mean, my take on this is that this is a great way to sell Switch 2s. Because I mean, look at the price of that OLED. Like, why would you
$50 away?
Yeah, just spend the extra $50 and get the Switch 2 at that point. Like, if you're going to drop the money on that, great way to sell Switch 2s. I wonder if they're going to catch. They'll definitely catch the DS, but I wonder if they're going to catch the PS2 now. Genuinely,
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I don't think they make up that difference. This is also super interesting. I don't want to try to talk economics or politics in depth because I'm not an expert and did not open up the article. But a new tariff situation went into effect today as we're recording this. And from what I read this morning, like Japan specifically is in sort of a weird situation with the US around that. And I know they're not necessarily manufacturing all this stuff there, but I assume that is going to have some kind of impact. And the wider tariffs certainly will too. So I'm curious, you mentioned that they said there's not going to be changes in their forecast because of the tariff situation. But I mean, I wonder how much of that was actually taking into account the fact that these were going to take effect, because it's been very on again, off again, and really nobody has any idea what's happening. And so these price increases do sort of feel like a way to get ahead of that, right? Like a way to sort of buffer themselves against the fact that somewhere in this chain, they're going to have to be paying more to get things into the United States one way or the other. And they need to make sure that they're proofed against that.
Is the original Switch still manufactured in China? And I know that they opened up facilities for Switch 2 in Vietnam, hoping to avoid future Chinese tariffs. And I'm wondering if that is why we're seeing such a huge leap in price, was because it's still in China and China's getting much bigger tariffs than what Vietnam agreed to, at least for now. Who knows? Everybody could be at 100% for all I know. But Walmart said, to hell with it, by the way, and they've got the OLED for $299 today, right now.
Funny.
Whoa.
So you want an OLED,
$299?
Walmart's just like, $299. Walmart's just like, go, just get them out of here, guys. And they'll probably write down their loss against their earnings. So just to make room. But
So
OLED's great, but
what this is telling me is that my Switch that I haven't sold is appreciating in value now.
Yeah?
Yes.
Isn't that crazy?
Guaranteed.
Honestly, yeah.
To go up in value.
Yeah, it's so nuts that that's just the world we're living in right now, where I thought for sure before everything started with console price increases, like 2 years ago, I would have said, yes, the Switch is going to pass the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
But that was under the assumption that after a successor console came out, they would drop the Switch Lite price to $99 and bundle it with like 3 games and throw it out there on Black Friday, like they did with the 2DS, which boosted those sales a ton. But that's just not happening. Like, there isn't going to be that $99 Mario Wonder Switch Lite bundle, at least not for now. So the fact they only sold 1 million in this period, they have to do that 6 more times, like to come close to the PS2, when those sales are only going to drop off a cliff. At least in this market, the price increases are only US and Canada right now, but North America is Nintendo's biggest market. So I don't think it has a chance now.
Yeah, you made that prediction under the assumption that the world economy was going to be normal.
Yeah, I did.
That was your mistake, Logan. That was
my mistake.
You should have known.
Yeah. So that's what's happening. Price increases. I think that my take is that they're just doing everything they can to keep the Switch 2 price where it is through the holidays. They are raising everything up a little bit to take that blow of however much it's costing them to import a Nintendo Switch 2. Because like we just said, they're operating at a higher cost now. The tariffs are only adding to that. But President Furukawa has said we need to jumpstart this install base. We need to get to 15 million by the end of this fiscal year. I don't expect a Switch 2 price increase until next spring at the earliest.
Yeah.
Does anyone have a different take?
No,
you're right.
Post-fiscal year.
They
Wait for the fiscal year to end before they do anything that could shake up the stock price and stuff.
Yeah, they also need to have enough really solid, highly reviewed, beloved, popular first-party games on that thing to get people to buy it at the higher price anyway. Because if they up the price right now, even just $50, I think those sales fall off a cliff.
Yeah. I'm kind of wondering, like, is this it for consoles? Like, maybe we're done with them? Like, will there be a PlayStation 6 that doesn't cost $1,000? Because nobody's going to buy a $1,000 console. Is the Nintendo Switch 2 maybe just we'll have a Nintendo Switch 3, but for all intents and purposes, there's no Xbox anymore. They raised the prices on that like absurdly high.
Yeah,
$700.
wow, that was
just
wild.
Yeah, I mean, it was already. No, I love my Xbox, but people were not buying it. We're not, playing it nearly to the point. I think PlayStation said that they sold 87 million PlayStation 5s.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
And that's, you see some price drops on that, but like if these prices continue where they're at, like I just don't see it being something that, why would you buy a console when you could just build a PC? Even that though, graphics cards and everything, it sucks. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe we're not going to have a console in the future.
I think we'll still have consoles. I think what we're going to see more of, Nintendo's already in a situation where a lot of people, if they purchase a Nintendo Switch or a Nintendo console, that's their only console. I mean, we're not in that camp, but like a lot of people are. But I think we're going to increasingly see people only buy one per generation. Well, that's like they still want to play those games, but they're going to be very, very choosy about which one they get, and they're not going to be multi-console households.
I kind of don't think Nintendo will ever not make consoles, but I wonder if Sony and anybody else is going to keep doing it in the future. Is it even worth it especially with Sony and Xbox now just porting their games to everything? There's a Sony Studios game on the Switch, the Horizon Lego game. Mm-hmm. There's, the 5 of the 10 best-selling Sony games or PlayStation 5 games last month were from Xbox, I think maybe Nintendo is going to stand alone in the future. And then everything else will just be whatever.
So they make the virtual guy, and then you just
it's going to be so sick.
Of the virtual boy,
man,
and and it's just it. It's just it.
Yeah. No, I can see that, Seth. I can also see cloud streaming getting much heavier investments too, because you just need whatever screen you're playing on for something to play from the cloud. I don't see Nintendo doing that. I agree. I think Nintendo, no matter what, will make consoles. They make toys. They are a toy maker. Their games are toys. Their consoles are toys. They'll keep making them. Yep. But it's interesting. And Reb, I think you just said that people will only buy one. They'll choose an Xbox, a PlayStation, or a Nintendo. I think they'll also probably only buy one of whatever one they pick. Like I bought 3 Switch 1s. I will not buy 3 Switch 2s at this price.
No.
Absolutely not.
Nope.
So I think that's something that's going to hurt the Switch 2's overall number a lot. Also, is that I bought a Switch Lite for my fiance, a Switch Lite for me, got
people
rid
get
of one
Switch
of them.
Lites for their kids and stuff like that. I think people will just increasingly have one home family console.
Yeah. Yep. I think so too. So that is the price increase. And not to sound like an advertisement, but maybe try and buy your Switch 2 this year if you can swing it, because I think it's going to go up next year.
Yeah.
I really, really do.
Yeah. Keep an eye out for those holiday stuff.
We'll drop an affiliate link in the comments. No, we won't.
Thanks for watching this clip from Nintendo Voice Chat. Be sure to catch the full episode over at youtube.com/IGN Games. New episodes of NVC drop every Friday on IGN Games, IGN.com, and your favorite podcast platforms. With the Nintendo Switch 2 finally here, there is so much to dive into. We appreciate you tuning in, and don't forget, NVC is the only place you can get the thing.